Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. And in this video we are going to create some pricing cards. So this is actually very simple, but it got this glass morphism effect. Also this button has some hover effect. So I have created the design in Figma actually. Now we are going to convert this into an HTML CSS template. So without any further ado, let's get started. At first, I'm just going to create a container div which will contain all of the cards or the contents. Inside it, I'm just going to create a grid. Actually, it's a div with the class of grid. So we are going to make this display grid and align the cards into a layout. So inside this, let's create the cards here. So this card class will contain the entire card. At first we got a card title, so I'm just going to use a class of card title. So the first one is for the student, and after that we need to add the pricing. So I'm just going to use a paragraph tag with the class of pricing. So let's put a demo text here, $20. Then let's create a span with the class of small, and it will contain backslash and per month. So that means $20 per month. We can remove the space here, we actually don't need that. So after that we also need to add a text of maybe save some dollar. So save $9. After that there is a line break. So sir, it will add a line here. So there will be the features. So I'm just going to use an unordered list with the class of features. This will contain some list item. So let's add some dummy list items here. Accounts. I'm just going to copy this. Customize playlist and maybe unlimited songs. Okay, this is our simple card and it is done. So we can just make some copy because we got 3 cards here. So we are done. So I have opened this by the live server extension of Visual Studio Code, and this look like that. Now we need to change some text here. The first one is for a student, maybe second one for the personal, the third one for the family. It's actually from the Spotify, but the pricing are not the same. So okay, let's say $39, and this one maybe $60. Let's save $25 here and $15 here. In this case it will be 6 accounts. So the markup is done. Now we are going to move on to the style.css and do some stylings. So in the style.css, at first I'm just going to remove the basic margin and padding of the browser. So margin 0, padding 0, box sizing will be border box. After that, let's target the body here and give this a minimum height of 100 viewport height. After that, let's add a background image. So background, it will be URL and it will have a link. So I got an image here, this one bg.jpg. So I'm just going to put bg.jpg. Let's save, and this is our background image. So let's also add background repeat, that will be no repeat, and also background size will be cover, not the content, it will be cover. Also we need to add some other property. So the color of the text inside it will be white because we want the text to be white. Let's fix the font family to Roboto, and Let's make the font size to 16 pixels. Okay, that will be it for the body. Now let's target the container here. I'm just going to give this a maximum height of 1320 pixels. Also, we on the contents at the center, so let's use the margin 0 auto. That will make them center in the horizontal plane. Let's also add some padding. We don't need any padding at the top and bottom, so it will be 0, but from left to right let's add 2 rem. So let's also give this a height of 100%. Okay, now this is inside the container. Now let's target the grid here and make the display grid. So we want to divide the grid templates into 3 columns, so that will be on fraction, and on fraction. So that will divide the entire grid or the space between 3 parts. Let's add some gap between the cards here, so I'm just going to add 4% of gap. Then let's also give this a height of 100%. Let's save, and now it got this gap and division between 3 columns. Let's target the card here, and to do something with the card we actually go to the Figma, but before that let's add some padding of maybe 50 pixels. Also, now let's move on to the Figma here, and I just selected the rectangle and it got this background blur and fill effect, so that actually gives this card a classmorphic effect. If we click the inspect here, we can see the codes down here. So we got the background, border color, background blur, border radius. We actually don't need the border radius. I'm just going to up to this and paste it here. So we got the background color of, it's actually the white color with 10% opacity. The border is 2 pixels white, but it got the color of white but 20% opacity. We actually don't need the box sizing here. Backdrop filter will be blurred to make the background image blur. Now let's add a border radius with that. So border radius, I'm just going to add a border radius of maybe 25 pixels. Now it looks like this. Okay, I think the styling of the background is done, so we can move on to these things and style it. So I'm just going to make it smaller so we can see the effect directly. Okay, here we go. Now let's target the card title. So for the card title, let's make the font weight normal because by default it is bold because we have used the is or heading tag. Now let's make the font size to 36 pixels. Also we need to add a margin bottom to create some gap with this title and this text. So let's add a margin at the bottom of 20 pixels. We are going to reduce it for a smaller size display. Now let's target the pricing, and we want this to be font weight. Actually it's the normal, and font size will be bigger, so I'm just going to add 96 pixels. It will be so much big, but we actually don't own the same thing with the, actually I'm just going to reduce it. Okay, we don't own the same art font size with this text also, so we got it inside an s1 tag with the class of small. So let's do that. uh, we need to target the pricing, then small. Let's make the font size to 16 pixels. Let's save, and now they are small. Now let's target the eraser here. This is this line break. So actually we are just going to add some margin at the top with this Acer. So let's give this a margin top of 70 pixels, so it will have some gap with the save $25 here in this case. After that, let's target the features. So for the features, let's add some margin at left, top and bottom. So margin at the top and bottom, I'm just going to add 40 pixels, and left and right we don't need any margin, so it will be 0. Let's save. Now it got some nice gap, but in here this is actually an unordered list. So this is the list styling, and by default the list styling will be outside the box, but we want to put it inside. So there is a property for that, which will be list style and position. It will be inside, sorry, not inline, it will be inside. Let's save. Now it should be inside. Now let's target the features, sorry, features and li. Let's set some padding at the bottom of 10 pixels, so this list items will have some gap between those. I actually forgot to add another thing here, so that will be the button. So I'm just going to go back to index.html and let's add some anchor tag with the class of cta underscore btn. This is actually a call to action button. Now the target will be blank and it will be buy now. Let's save, and we actually need to add this with the other two cards here. So now we are going to target the anchor tag with the class of cta underscore btn. Now at first let's give this a void of 100%. We cannot see any effect because we also need to make it display inline block, because by default the anchor tag is an inline element. Also this should be at the center, so let's make the text align center. Let's save. Now it should be center. Let's also give this a background color, and for that we need to go to the Figma here and get the background color. So this is the rectangle, and I'm just going to get the background color, also the border radius, and put it here. Let's save, and this is how it looks like because there is no padding here. So let's add some padding. We actually need the padding at top and bottom. So let's add 20 pixels and 0. The 0 will be from left and right. We also need to make the color white because we cannot see the text. Let's make the text decoration none. We can also increase the letter spacing a little bit. So letter spacing, let's say 2 pixels, and it is far better now. Let's also add some hover effect. So I'm just going to target the anchor tag with cta btn, and let's add a hover. So on hover we want the background color to be totally black. Let's save. Okay, it's fine, but we also need to add a transition effect. So the transition will only need it on the background, nothing else. So I'm just going to remove the color here. Okay, so background and maybe 0.3 second is, let's save, and now we got the transition effect here. So the cards are done. Now it looks like this, but in order to create some gap at the top, I'm just going to add some padding with the grid here. So let's add a padding. We only need that at the top and bottom. So let's add 12% and 0. So this will make this kind of center. So the cards are done, but this is not totally responsive. If we just make the display size smaller, and it looks terrible. So I'm just going to open the dev tool here. So it looks fine for this void and this breakpoint also. This is 1440. Sorry, I think there is some issue here. I'm just going to reload this. Okay, I'm just going to do it again. Okay, now it's fine. So for 1440 breakpoint it looks okay, but if it get reduced than 1024 it kind of look ugly. So I think we can put two cards in a row for this breakpoint and put another on. So actually there will be two items in a row. So let's add some media query at the bottom of the CSS. So let's add a media. We need this sign here, media only screen and maxoid of 1024 pixels. Okay, whenever the display size will be smaller than 1024 pixels, we want to target the grid here. Let's target the grid template columns and make it on fraction, so there will be two items in a single row. We can also reduce the gap a little bit, so I'm just going to make it 2%. Let's save, and here we go, and it actually looks fine up to this breakpoint. So we need to break down this grid system again. So from this breakpoint for 25 pixels there will be a single item in a row. So again let's target that. I'm just going to copy this on here, and in this case it will be 425 pixels. So whenever it will be less than 425 pixels we can make it only on fraction. Let's save, and here we go. So for a smaller size display it actually doesn't look good because there is so much padding here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through all the stylings and do some more modifications. So I'm just going to start with the container. I think this padding here is little too much for a smaller size breakpoint. So container, let's add a padding. It was actually 0 and 3 rem. So I'm just going to make it on rem, so there will be less gap here. Now let's target the body, and for the body I'm just going to reduce the font size to maybe 14 pixels. It was 16 pixels before, so it will reduce the font size of every text. This one, not this one, because we have specified it. So now we need to reduce the padding of the card, so let's reduce it to 30 pixels. It was 50 pixels before. Now let's target the card title here, and for the card title let's reduce the font size to 24 pixels and margin bottom to 12 pixels. Let's save. So after that I'm just going to reduce the font size of this pricing. So in this case let's make the font size to 52 pixels. This one, that will be reduced now. Okay, there is too much gap with this HR and this text. So let's target the HR here and make the margin top to 50%. Now it is reduced. Let's target the anchor tag with the CTA BTN, and we can also reduce the font size to 11 pixels. It will look fine. So this is our card, and it is looks great for this viewport, but there is an issue here. We need to add some more padding with the grid at the bottom. So I'm just going to do it here. So let's target the grid. Actually we already did that. Okay, now let's add a padding bottom of maybe 25%. Let's save. Now we got this nice gap and everything is fine. So for each of the breakpoints here it looks great, and yeah, we are done with our cards here. Thank you guys for watching this video so far, and If you are not subscribed yet, please don't forget to subscribe. I will share the link of my Codepen below in the description, so you can go there and check the course. So this is it for this video, and see you in the next one. Take care and goodbye.